Welcome to the Crypto Compliance Podcast by Gatenox.
Pawel Kuskowski, welcome in Crypto Compliance by Gatenox, where compliance experts and practitioners are talking about current market events and general compliance aspects. Today I'm here with Carlos Martins, Chairman of Gibraltar Association of Compliance Officers and Chief Compliance Officer and MLRO for ZUBR Exchange, which interestingly is a subsidiary of FTX. So, Carlos, we know each other for, I think, already a couple of years, right? And I know that the Gibraltar ecosystem is thriving in general. But what's happening with the roads? So, it's booming so much, the Gibraltar economy, that you have 34,000 citizens, but 50,000 cars. So what's happening?
Well, we must be doing well. No, what we have seen in the compliance space is that we have evolved. We were one of the first movers in terms of DLT licenses. The regulator has taken it very seriously and has kept a principled approach. So where basically you have now 10 principles that the companies need to prove that they fulfill and that they meet. So, and that has attracted people that want to be regulated and want to operate in a regulated space. So we were able to attract quite interesting players. Licenses were issued and people are monitored on a constant basis. So that goes along with other sectors that work well, like the normal finance, like tourism. The gaming industry is here as well important and is regulated. So, we see a good, stable development. We are not attracting thousands of companies, but we tend to attract a couple of good ones. And that makes the economy to continue to be stable and we grow in a sustainable manner.
Yeah, I think that's excellent, and I think Gibraltar is one of the jurisdictions when you can say proper regulations and proper approach to the market can benefit dramatically to the economy. Effectively, what happened in Gibraltar is like you don't have any scandals. Right, you don't have any like what happened in Bahamas, basically, that you have regulations, but they are dead because nobody was trying to enforce them. And I think in the small ecosystem, you would notice anyway that something is happening, which I think is great benefit for Gibraltar. And I know how cautious you are. In Gibraltar, the regulators are for anyone to come to this market. 2016 was crazy because there was ICO, and I still remember that certain ICOs were simply rejected by the ecosystem, right? Because you have lawyers like Joey Garcia, who I also invited, and we're gonna speak I believe in March, and a couple of others lawyers from Hassan's and etc. Where we. But when I saw that no lawyers would accept certain projects, right, which I think is good, and it's there's very close cooperation with the regulators, etc. So this happening, and also GACO is very thriving ecosystem, right? The Association of Compliance Officers. Tell me more about this.
Yes, so basically we are a non-profit organization, but we have members across all the sectors. So it starts with the little shops in Main Street, which could be considered high-value dealers, up to banks. So, and in between, we have everything. We have DLT providers, we have asset managers, real estate agents. So really the whole industry that is affected by AML are our members. And the main objective of the association is to provide people education, so to make them aware of what is happening in the space of AML, counterterrorism finance, proliferation finance. We work as well very closely with the GFIU, so the Financial Intelligence Unit, and the fraud squad of the Royal Gibraltar Police. And that helps and assists to educate people and to say, look, that is what you need to be aware of, so that all people have a sense of being gatekeepers. And it's interesting that you mentioned. So, for example, when someone applies for a license, a DLT license in Gibraltar, they will typically contact either an accountant, an auditor, or a lawyer, typically a lawyer. And the lawyer, as a gatekeeper, has a filtering task. So to try to do the appropriate and adequate due diligence on the participants, to see if the project makes sense, what the risks would be that project would entail, and if it would make sense to have such a player in Gibraltar or not, or if it would be best to keep them out of Gibraltar. And because of that, until now it has worked very well. And because we try to train people and to show them what possible red flags could be, we were until now very proud to say we have lived up to the expectations, and we are very sensible in the way that we choose people that we let in.
I think that's excellent. And do you have a lot of crypto players in your association?
Yes, we don't have all of them, but we have a majority of them that are members of the association, and even the ones that are not members, because we have an agreement with GANT, the Gibraltar Association of New Technologies, and as well with GIFIA, the Funds and Investment Association. What tends to happen is whoever organizes an event, be it GACO, GANT, GIFIA, all the members of the other associations are allowed to take part in those events at the same conditions as the members. So whenever we do our yearly big AML training, which is half a day, and we have always 3 sessions so that everyone can attend, we have up to 300 attendees from all the sectors, including the DLT, and they participate in those events, and they are trained specifically, and questions get answered that they would have even in the DLT space. So we have a lot of topics that we cover, be it gaming addictions, be it cybersecurity, be it money laundering across the sectors. So every time that we do an event, we will have people from the different sectors because they are wanting to know and to learn more. So, and that is very good, and that's proven to be crucial to make people aware of what could happen if they let the wrong clients through the door, for example.
Definitely. And I think, just to mention, so you have Gnosis, which was natively built in Gibraltar, right? The whole team is there. But Huobi, Binance, Block, right? So many like big LMAX, I think, as well, right?
Yes.
So you have, it's impressive brands which are in Gibraltar. What's the, let's say, you think, what's the success? Why this happened? I remember the time in 2017-18 when there was comparison between Malta and Gibraltar, and I think even with Dubai a little bit like in this space. And considering how much bigger is Dubai, I think you still have better projects than Dubai. Not even to compare to Malta. So what was the success, let's say, factor for Gibraltar? Or what is the success factor?
I think we need to take a step back. So what happened was that at certain stage, the government and the industry decided to do an event where we invited various specialists to Gibraltar, and we asked them, okay, if we were to regulate the DLT space, what would be a sensible approach? So how would we regulate the DLT space in a manner that we can encompass regulation for various types of activities in the DLT space, and keep track of any development? And one of the conclusions was that if you try to regulate the technology, it's going to be impossible, because it keeps on changing at a pace that no one can manage or control. So that would be silly. And the other thing is, because the technology is very flexible, so the way you regulate needs to be flexible as well. So that is when the local regulator and the government came up that you need to have a principle-based one. So you set principles that people need to respect, that the companies need to respect, and it's actually the companies that need to evidence how their policies, processes, and procedures do comply with the required regulation. So even though two companies might be doing similar things, they will not have necessarily the same policies, the same processes and procedures, and they will still comply, because the way that they comply is specific to their business model. So, and that, I think that is what is a little bit atypical for Gibraltar. And the other thing is as well the approval process. So it all starts with a meeting with the lawyer, then you explain the idea that you want to develop, and there you have already a pre-selection. Then the second would be you have a meeting with the regulator together with the lawyer, and you will explain why you want to do that project, what would be the benefits. And then again, there is the second pre-selection. And if it's thought that it would be something that you would wish to pursue, then the regulator will tell you, yes, we are happy for you to progress with that project, but now you need to bring evidence how you are going to succeed, and then you need to present them with a lot of documentation, policies, processes, procedures, and so on. And then you have a bigger meeting with them that can last 3, 4, 5 hours to really go step by step on how you are going to implement the project and how you are going to meet regulatory requirements, not only at the onset, but on an ongoing basis. And once you have obtained your license, soon thereafter, the regulator will be at your doorstep and will want to check step by step that you are complying to get the comfort. But because you are working closely with the regulator and you have the opportunity to present your project, to progress, and for them to see what you want to do, it goes quicker than in other jurisdictions, and still maintaining the very high levels of compliance. And that's pretty unique, that you can meet the regulator face to face and discuss what you want to do and the benefits of the project.
Yeah, I think, just to, as comparison, FCA right now, I believe, is a little bit struggling with this type of approach. FCA in the UK, right? And I think, there are many good people lost. And how many people right now you have in Gibraltar, in the regulator, who knows and who are involved in crypto?
I don't know the exact figures. I know that the regulator has around 100 employees, and they have a fully dedicated section for the DLT. So on the one side, you have the authorizations team, but then you have as well the ones that do monitor the financial crime, AML, CFT, proliferation finance, and so on. So whilst you have a fully dedicated team that is exclusive to the DLT to license, you have then all the other additional teams that help and assist the ongoing monitoring. So I would say if you look at the core team, maybe we are talking about 5 people that are fully dedicated. But if you look at the bigger team, you can easily have up to 15 or 20 people that can be involved and dedicated and look at the business case. So it is quite a strong force, as you can see, and that's why they can analyze thoroughly the application on a case-by-case basis and really focus and tell you what they want to see, ask you questions, and that is why. I understand that in a bigger jurisdiction with thousands of applicants, it would be difficult or very cumbersome to process. Here, the advantage is that you have a lot of lawyers that can prepare the files before and do the pre-selection and act as gatekeepers, so that already quite a big amount of projects that would not go anywhere or that could be too risky for Gibraltar, where we don't have risk appetite, get already stopped at that level. So they don't even get presented to the regulator because the pre-filtering happens already a stage before. And I think that is very useful, and that those people that are the gatekeepers have a very close communication with the regulator that helps as well to see what is it desirable for the jurisdiction and what is not.
That's actually really interesting, and I know that it is the case. Just imagine a situation when we would certify, the regulator could certify law firms to be kind of gatekeeper only for, to be pre-selection. And I know Isola and, Hassan's and Ramparts in old days. What's the company Ramparts changed into, or, they got bought in?
They did change name, yes.
Yeah,
but there are there are other ones. There are 3i lawyers, DSN. So
it's got bigger, basically, right?
Yes, so there are quite a lot of companies that will do, and then nowadays you see as well service specialists. So you have the likes of XREG, big team that are ex-regulators from not only from Gibraltar but from other jurisdictions, and they would be able to assist as well with the process and to evaluate the soundness of the projects that are presented to them. So you have the likes of Tolia Consultancy that can do that. So you have, there is an ecosystem that is built, and it's not that those people in any way or mean speak in the name of the regulator or can say, I'm taking a pre-selection. But the thing is, if you have been around and you have seen the various projects, you get the feeling which would be acceptable ones for the jurisdiction or not. And if you, as an advisor, let the wrong player in, there is as well a certain responsibility on you. Because the last thing that we want is a major scandal, because that would be a no-go for a jurisdiction like us. So we all try to keep the bad players out of the door.
Yeah,
and we all speak with each other, because if the community is already small, the financial community is even smaller. So we all know each other and we all speak with each other, and we all try to look over the shoulders of each other and protect each other. So
no, I think that's excellent. That's why also, I like Gibraltar in this way, because it's almost like you take responsibility for the projects. You don't want to have, and I know that it's spilling across different law firms, advisors, regulators, but you rather quit even like very expensive, very like flashy projects and focus on, better one, just to protect the community, just to, make it grow and in a sustainable way, which I really love. And I think this is like the best way, for compliance officers to grow as well. So you mentioned also I know that you have vast experiences, not only like seeing as part of GACO, seeing other, compliance officers in work and discussion which is happening, but you also, spent a couple of years, or if not several years, in traditional finance compliance. Tell me, and this is main point on the discussion, right? Tell me how do you see, what are the similarities, differences between traditional sector, compliance, threat fee, and the crypto world?
I don't really see many differences. There are still people that, unfortunately, in the crypto space, have the feeling that there is a degree of being anonymous and that they can do crazy and silly things with the cryptos, and that said actions are going to go undetected. The reality is that we all know that there are providers like you that can easily trace those transactions, that can easily map, for example, even in complex financial structures, who are the real people behind that are trying to hide. So, if you are using, it's a more complex world because the way that the blockchain is structured, but it leaves a trace. And with the right tools, you can trace back to the source, or you can see what was done with those cryptocurrencies. So what you need is the right tools. So it's not as easy as in the banking world, but with the right tools, it becomes sometimes even easier to trace transactions and to follow it back to the source. So that is what I find fascinating. At the end of the day, the traditional and the crypto space, it will go back to the human factor. So at the end of the day, the ones that try to do something dodgy will always be related to greed or to other human psychological factors that are present in the human. And there will be people trying to defraud. There will be people trying to impersonate who they are not. So you will find all those type of actors in one sector and in the other. The funny thing is, or the good thing is for the compliance officers, is that if I compare it back with 10 years, now we have much more tools and better technologies than we had back in the days. When I was back in private banking, I would have loved to have some of the tools that we have today. So, for example, having a client scanning a passport and the tool telling you with high confidence if it's a fraudulent passport or if it's an original one. Back at the days, you took a copy. You might have had somewhere an online page where you could see, could that be a genuine passport of that country? But that was it. And nowadays, you ask the client to put the passport beside the face, and the tool will tell you if the physiognomy of the person and the picture on the passport, if they match, and in how much percentage they match. Amazing. I didn't have that back in the days. I would have loved to have that. So it has evolved. It needs probably another kind of MLROs and compliance to be able to cope with that technology. But I would say it's not, in many senses, it's not different. So if you in a bank were dealing with multiple foreign currencies and exchanging one currency to the other, and the risks involved, changing a fiat currency to a crypto and the backwards, technically, it's not much different than that. Okay.
Yeah, I love what you just said. And I think, that's exactly, my feeling. And, comparing to, in terms of tools, imagine, you would have Swift, history of transaction in Swift, and then you analyze this and you get metadata and, That's unbelievable what you have in crypto and in traditional finance. All right.
Yes, and the other thing I remember back in the days, if you were dealing with the structure with companies across several jurisdictions, you having to contact the company register to obtain the documents, or you having to do the research, not having available any beneficial owner registries that were available. Having to get all that documentation and then go through all those staples of corporate documents from different jurisdictions, having to analyze, is that now a sound setup or not? And nowadays you have a tool that in a couple of minutes you access, and you see even the design of the whole structure. That is how that company fits into the other. Those are the shareholders. Those are the beneficial owners. I mean, in sometimes in a couple of minutes, that's simply amazing. What took you a couple of months to evaluate, now you can do in a couple of minutes. I mean, you know it better than me. I mean, you provide such a service, and it's amazing. Yeah. It's mind blowing.
Yeah, and I think the way technology will be further changing. This landscape. Just to give you, I mean, where we are heading right now with Gatenox is we actually want to collect data from the internet, some metadata, because there's like the recent case of what's her name, Ruya Ignatova, from one coin Ponzi scheme. So I don't know if you heard, but she was caught in the property transaction because there was beneficial owner disclosure, and suddenly they realized that she is selling apartment house in the middle of London, right, for 12 million. And without this disclosure and analytics on top of the company's data, we wouldn't be able to discover this type of transaction. So it would be hidden. So I think this type of transparency, and I know there's a lot of discussion on the beneficial owner. I don't think nobody wants to be shown in any. If you are beneficial owner of a company, right, you don't want to be disclosed. That's, I think, pretty much standard, right? But at the same time, for balancing this against this society and how much you have companies which should be disclosed properly, and there's a lot of interesting information which you can find out. Like there's other case when 50 Nigerians was in one company across 50 different companies set up by the same people living in the same apartment. That's something which is definitely dodgy. So historically, nobody would be able to pick this up. Right now, we are getting into another stage of transparency. Couple of words which I wanted to touch on is when you are coming to, so you have experience with ZUBR exchange, you came in, so you were responsible for compliance and anti-money laundering, sanction screening. Tell me what would be your advice to someone in your shoes with less experience, where to start, what to look for, what are the main steps to actually, do proper job?
Like I said, first of all, you need a proper training and an understanding of what is going on. Then the other thing is, in a company, you need to have the right policies in place, the right processes, and the right procedures. And the other thing.
So let's stop on this.
And the other thing is the tools.
Yeah, and on the policies, procedures, programs. How do you? What's your? I think everyone has different definition in the community. I mean, in crypto. I mean, not in crypto, in compliance.
Yeah.
What's your definition of, let's say, policy, procedure, program? Sometimes.
Yeah.
What's your take on this?
Well, the policies tells you how you will do a customer due diligence, how you will assess risk, what are the parameters that you consider for the risk. It starts already before to say what are the risks that my sector is exposed to, what are the specific risks that my company is exposed to, and how will I mitigate them. Then you set policies to say, this is what is an acceptable behavior. That is the way that we are going to assess a new client before he comes through the door and we do business with her or with him. And that is the documentary evidence that we want to see. And then you assess what will be the typical transaction that client wants to perform with you. So you set a set of parameters at the beginning to say if it stays between those parameters, that would be a business as usual. To be able to see if they do something unusual, then you will be able to spot it and to say, okay, why is it unusual? And is it unusual because something has changed in the circumstances of the client? Or is it unusual because he is trying to do something out of the common that wouldn't be acceptable, for example, and then you need to take appropriate measures. Then once you have defined in the policy basically like the rules of the game, then you need to find out how will I apply it. So in which manners will I apply it? So what are the tools that I need to be able to live up to those expectations? So there you would define how do I, for example, how do I collect the information on the client? How do I verify that the documentation that I'm receiving is true and valid? How do I perform ongoing monitoring? So if the client is transacting every day a certain amount, how do I pick up those transactions?
So this is program, right? This is program.
That is yes. That is the
procedure, right? This would be the procedure.
Yeah. So and then in the procedures, I need to be able as well to have someone doing spot checks. So if you have a compliance person performing the normal day-to-day, the MLRO will be expected to pick up randomly whatever transaction, whatever process, whatever onboarding, and check, did we fulfill it? And we even go a step further, because in Gibraltar, according to the Proceeds of Crime Act, you need then to have an independent audit on your compliance. So it's not an accounting audit, but you need to have an independent auditor coming in and verifying how effective your policies, your processes, and your procedures are in order to mitigate any compliance risk. So there needs to be an independent person that will come in and say, okay, in your policy, you said that you are going to do this. Show me evidence how it works in practice. And then that person will, at the end, write the report and say what were the deficiencies that were found and what were the impracticabilities that they found. So the policy says something, but we see that in practice you cannot apply it because X, Y, Z. So that needs to be changed to reflect the reality. So it goes as far as that.
I didn't know about this component. This sounds like, I think that's unique almost for Jeep, right? I didn't hear.
So since POCA 2015, bureau de change, high value dealers, real estate agents, so everyone that is regulated needs to have audit on a regular basis.
But I'm saying that this is, I think I don't know jurisdiction which would have this type of requirement of independent audit on compliance, which you have for other parts.
And the regulator will request it. The regulator will say, okay, show me that you have done it. Show me you need then, as a company, you need to define, depending on the risk that yourself constitute, you need to define if it's something that you want to do yearly, every 2 years, or every 3 years. So you need to define the regularity depending on the risk that you are exposed yourself. And depending on the changes that could happen in regulation, that could impact yourself.
Yeah, I think, like the spot check is critical. I remember when my time in RBS, the are you in control? I don't know if it was famous in the industry, are you in control? Which, if done badly, and, unfortunately in traditional finance, there's a lot of check boxes exercise, which is completely useless. I mean, it's completely useless.
Yep.
And I think, on the other side, if you do this properly, that's a fantastic tool. And I think, one of the critical tools, because you're almost like, okay, take the file, check if everything, there's requirements. This is what you find out, compare, get the result. Simple as it sounds, but I think, if this is right process, it gives you unbelievable information on the company and on the process, right?
And you learn. And then
Yeah, exactly.
again, it's what I say. You on the theoretical side, you can learn a lot. Then the other thing that you cannot acquire is experience. So believe it or not, in some cases, if you sit there and you are meeting the client, you are having a conversation with the client, and your gut feeling says there is something wrong, then the experience tells you rather let it be. You rather don't progress with that relationship and you cut it off. Then you continue, because experience will tell you if you act against your gut feeling, that will come back to you and bite you at some stage. So again, there is a lot of tools and technology that you can use. But then again, if it's too good to be true, then probably it's too good, and it's better to walk away from those situations and not get involved. But that comes with experience and common. At the end of the day, common sense. It's not. It's not because you have 100 documents that will make the case better. If with 10 documents you have already enough evidence to decide that it is a good case, then you need to take the decision. But if we 10 documents, it's a bad case. With 100 documents, it will still be a bad case. So don't touch it. So, but that is experience, and that is a little bit what we instill, or we want to tell our compliance officers as well, to say, look, don't try to hide behind checklists, and it's not because you will ask for 10 more documents that you are going to be in a better position. If there is evidence that it is a bad case, cut it short, leave it, don't progress. That's the advice that we can give.
I think the only problem, and that's out of my experience, and I believe many in traditional finance, is you're almost 100% sure that it's not going to pass as a client, right? And you put this, let's say, you have escalation path to the board, and you submit, the application to the board. You're 100% sure that it's going to be rejected. 9 out of 10 would be accepted. I don't know if this is your experience. And I think, it's frankly, crypto, I believe, you either do dodgy stuff, or you are more receptive to this type of rejection, right? So simply speaking, what you said is, it feels, too good, or, it's obvious, but it's something dodgy going on. You simply reject this, and many crypto businesses would say, that's fine. Where in traditional finance, there will be much less, rejection rate than in crypto, in proper crypto.
Well, what I can say is that even in the traditional world, I think it has become much more difficult to let the dodgy players through the door. Possibly the volume of applications that they are is bigger, And probably what happens, the volumes of money that are involved are bigger as well. And sometimes out of the sheer amount of applications, there might be the one or the other that fails and goes through. But I think here in GIB, I cannot make a big difference between the compliance officers in the traditional finance and the DLT, because at the end of the day, we have a limited pool of professionals, and many of the professionals that you find now in the crypto space, they were before in the traditional space, and they have that workload experience. So they are dealing with it in a sensible manner. So that is at least the experience that I have. And I know that the longer it goes, people are very concerned of doing the wrong things, because the longer it goes, the more accountable you are. So before there were certain people that didn't feel accountable of accepting or rejecting, but nowadays it's a serious business. All the key persons in a firm are regulated individuals, and if something wrong happens, they will be held accountable for it, and they will put their career at risk. So no one is really out in wanting to put their career at risk, especially in a small jurisdiction. You get it wrong once, and then you are out of business. Then you need to do something else in your life. And if you love and are passionate about being a compliance officer and work in the industry, you don't want that to happen. So you rather consider, if it looks wrong, I rather don't do it, because it's not worth it. It's not worth for you, for the jurisdiction, for no one. So if it's not good for anyone, why do it? Why to do it? Just because of the sake of money? Not worth it.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. Training. I know that you do a lot of training in Gibraltar through GACO. And I know it's a rhetorical question, but I need to ask this. How important, in your opinion, is training?
Well, it is very important, because, again, you need to constantly make people aware. So only if people are aware of the things and are kept alert, it's like a conscience. If you keep on training your conscience to behave correctly, whenever you are in a situation and you need to decide, you will typically do the right thing, because you have been training your conscience to do the right thing, independently if people are looking at you or you are being observed or not. You will do the right thing because you know that it is the right thing to do. So we in GACO, we try to do the same. We try to remember people to say, look, that is an acceptable behavior, that is an unacceptable behavior. And the more you tell people, the more that gets enshrined in themselves. And then you hope that in whenever they have to decide, they will take the right and ethical decision that needs to be taken. So training is very important, and it is very important as well to make people aware that there are new tools, new technologies, and that even the ones that are still very fan of taking passport copies, that is no longer adequate. So you need to as well educate people on new technologies, and that those are better, will make your life easier, and will prevent you from taking or onboarding the wrong clients. So that is as well a part of the role that we see, not only training them on the AML and CFT, but training them on everything. So training them on the progresses on the blockchain, but training them as well and showing to them there are new, more efficient and effective tools. And because we are a jurisdiction that embraces new technology, so the players that service that community need to go forward as well. So hence why we tend not only to invite AML players, but we tend to invite other firms that we know that have technologies and tools that could be useful, and we present them. If then the players take those tools on or not, is their decision. But at least we are making them aware, and we are showing that there are better ways to perform their work and more effective ones.
100%. And I think, I like what you said about growing conscious, or, experience and exchange of experience, which is kind of everyone across industry would start to expect from one another, right? I mean, this is critical. And, I believe we both, I also started, Compliance Officers Association in Poland, which I'm, happy. I think we can announce officially that we're going to be working towards GACO and Polish Compliance Association to work together. I already, spoke with the board on this, so it's actually really interesting. And I think this type of not tangible, necessarily experience, which is, not necessarily if this doesn't feel good, you should probably stop it. And this is why, some reasons why as well, are critical. Let's say we going to the end. I wanted to ask you more, let's say, visionary question. Let's put it in this way: what are the missing components in crypto or Web 3.0, broader Web 3.0, which we need to put in place as from the regulatory compliance perspective? Is there something missing, you think, still, or are we getting into complete picture? And how would you prevent many of the recent, let's say, scandals, being stopped, basically, or not happen?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, some of the things that happen go down to the human factor. So. Historically, the biggest Ponzi schemes, frauds, and so on that happened historically, it all goes back to the human factor, which is difficult to control. Now, from a regulatory point of view, you can put safeguards in place, and you can apply them, and you can be very conscious about the way which players you take on board and which you leave out. So those things, in my opinion, will not change. Now, I think there are interesting movements, for example, in the sector of the proof of funds, that the players in the crypto space need to show, to bring evidence to their clients that effectively whatever the client is ought to have is there. But I don't believe in the players that themselves confirm that they have it. So I am more of the opinion that someone independent needs to check and needs to prove to me, because you yourself saying it is one thing, me having evidence, independent evidence, is another thing. So if the players want to do it, they need to do it in a correct, sensible manner. In the classic environment, in the banking, there are financial audits for a reason, because it's not only acceptable that the players will say they have so much assets under management. There needs to be independent evidence of that. So we need to go into that space. And the other thing is, as technology is quickly picking up, the companies that want to stay in the sector and to service those fast-lived and fast-growing sectors, they need to embrace new technology. So I don't think that there is a way around in not embracing the new technology and the advantages that the new technology bring to prevent things to happen. And then again, it's a matter, if you want to be in the crypto space and you want to be regulated, you need to choose the jurisdictions that take regulation seriously. There are jurisdictions that take it more serious than others. So if you want as well to be a player with the big boys in the crypto, and you want to show that you are well regulated, then go to a jurisdiction where they do the regulation well and they take it seriously. Yeah.
I think this is even from the customer perspective. I always say, and I was many times asked, like by the press or someone, okay, so where do you start your due diligence on the company? Check where the company is actually registered, set up. Do they have any license to operate? What is the license? Check if the license actually is available, because you're putting your money, right? This is critical. What do you have any recourse? When you're actually gonna lose the money, is there any functioning legal sector which you can go into? So this is definitely critical. And like in Bahamas, frankly, it's going to be very tough for people to recover, right? There's a small ecosystem when you can actually really apply to the court, to the judges, all this stuff. So I think this are important. So like doing your own due diligence and making sure that someone is operating under correct license in the correct jurisdiction is critical. But I love what you said about proof of funds. That's, I think the idea for this should be there should be a couple of signatories, including regulator, who in certain moment of time, I don't know, once a week, would release amount of funds, and it will be under control. Because one of the biggest problem is that the funds could be flying very quickly around the world, right? That's what we're facing in crypto. That's the biggest problem. It's very difficult to trace these funds, even though with the right tool, but you have still exchanges you can put through the exchanges and it's gone, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's excellent. But I completely also echo what you said about the tools. I think they are growing, but at the same time, you need to have slightly different approach or slightly different type of compliance officer who is more, let's say, friendly or understanding new technology, all this stuff, which so many, in so many situations I see compliance officer preferring Excel spreadsheet or even paper over technology. So I think that's exactly what happened.
I'm certain there are people that would still prefer to travel with horse carriages, but unfortunately the world has moved on, and we now have cars, and we now are moving to electro cars, and that's just the signs of time. And compliance, what worked 20 years ago, an Excel spreadsheet which as that time was innovative, now it's no longer innovative. So the compliance officer needs to move on, and sometimes needs to be ahead of the curve and anticipate what could happen and how, and have solutions to solve those problems, those issues. Because at the end of the day, a compliance officer is here to facilitate sound business and to prevent unsound business. So the compliance officers are not here to be difficult or to wanting to extract information just because they fancy having all that information. But they are here to be like the good conscience of the company and say, yes, that's a legitimate sound business, and we are going to make money with it, and the client is going to make money with it, so it's a fair share, so we facilitate that business. No, that is not a legitimate one, so we are not going to do it, and that's it. So by nature, a compliance officer is not a difficult person, even if some people might think that is the case. We are here just to make sure that we prevent you as a salesperson to do a mistake even before you see that mistake. So that's a little bit where I'm coming from, and the discussions we are having with the compliance officers. And I think the other thing is we need to communicate more with people, because that's what we see at our events when we see people from different sectors explaining how they tackle certain situations. That is very enriching, because then you keep on thinking and say, oh, actually, I could use the same methodology for me, and that would make my life easier. So that's the way you progress as well.
No, I love this analysis of all this down. So working with sales to prevent them from making mistake even before they make mistake. It's a good one. I love this. Last question.
Sometimes it's like when you go walking with someone and the person is talking to you, and you see they could put their feet in a hole, and you just hold them by the hand and say, "Oh, careful," and that's it. That's all that we want. But at the end of the day, we are walking with them in the same direction, and that is what they need to understand.
100%. Tell me, what are your thoughts, and at what stage we are globally with travel rule? What's your feeling
about what? Sorry, I did
travel rule.
The travel rule.
Yeah.
Well, in terms of the travel rule, there are a lot of solutions that we see. We don't see any single solution that does fit all the regulatory requirements around the globe. So normally, as a provider, what you would do is you would see what is the solution that you have that will cover the most of the requirements. And then sometimes you need to work with 1, 2, 3 providers to be fully covered. So it is a little bit difficult because there is not a full harmony, but we are at the stage that with a single provider, you might be able to cover 80% of your requirements. But there is certainly room for improvement. There are jurisdictions that are a little bit more advanced in the implementation, as we see, and that are already enforcing and requesting it. There are jurisdictions that are a little bit more behind, but definitely it is the way to go. And there are solutions and providers. You just need, every company needs to do their own due diligence and assessment and see what is the best alternative for the company themselves. It's not easy. It's there is work involved, and you need to do a precise analysis for each company to find the best solution. And sometimes on the face of it, the providers tell you that they can do everything, and then if you look behind the curtains, you will find actually not. They are not really fulfilling. So then you need to do your homework, and you need to bring your contribution, and you need to ask them to include certain things that are specific to your company. But we will get there.
Yeah, I think so too. But it's always, I think we discussed already travel rule for 4 years, 5 years. Yeah, I don't think we are anywhere close to say, okay, it's actually rolled out, but I think it's still good progress, anyway. Yeah. So Carlos, what's the weather like at the moment in Gibraltar? Sunny, nice?
Yesterday it was a little bit shaky and stormy, but today, fortunately, we have 16 degrees. The sun is out, so we can't complain. We had a January that was colder than the average, but we are in winter, hey, and the worst that we had, I think, was during daytime 8-9 degrees plus, so not minus. So it's great. We shouldn't be complaining. There will be people here that will say, "Oh, it was awfully cold." No, it's actually still quite pleasant. So you can go out, enjoy the sunshine, have a walk at the beach. That's fine. It's great to be here.
All right. So listen, you should go enjoy, and I hope to see you in March in Gibraltar, face to face. And
that would be great.
Let's do this in this way. Carlos, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Excellent. Thank you.
Hey.